Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Now is the chance to use reliable energy to grow your money with the Dominion Energy Reliability Investment. Our new investment product offers competitive returns, no maintenance fees, and flexible online access to your money. Make the reliable investment in reliable energy. The Dominion Energy Reliability Investment. To find out more, go online to reliabilityinvestment.com. That's reliabilityinvestment.com.
Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Man, we got a lot to talk about. Michael Russo is in Colorado preparing to cover another seemingly big wild game. Since the last time we talked, we have had trades, a trip to Costa Rica, a trip to the hospital. Michael valeted for the newest Wild player. We've had firings around the NHL, and Michael spent a game talking to Pierre McGuire. So we have tons to get to. We'll get some Twitter questions today, but this is going to be a loaded show. Thanks to Twill and the Edina Galleria. Delano's Pizza, next live show, Monday night, 6 p.m., January 28th. Please come down. We had a nice big crowd last time. A lot of great people. We have a blast. Come down to Delano's Pizza, downtown Minneapolis, right by Ramsey. Thanks to FixologyRepair.com and Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Reminder, if you want to advertise with us, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. Please download before you listen, and please follow us at Talk North Pod on Twitter. I don't know where to start, Michael. There's so much to get to. Why don't we start with the news, which is that Fenton, Mr. Trader, has now started making trades.
Yeah, I think it took him half a season to really start to analyze his team, and I think he's felt a lot of pressure lately with the team being up and down that he's got to start making moves to tinker with this lineup. Use a different word than tweak. And that he's done the last week. He made 3 trades in 6 days, including the departure of Nino Niederreiter. And now, I mean, frankly, there could be a lot more. He is really looking at this team. He's not happy with it. And I think what drives him nuts is the same thing that's driven all of us nuts for years, is that you never know what you're going to get with them. Some nights they're world beaters. Some nights they make you want to punch a hole in the wall. Some nights they can go into Vegas and play so well, and the next night they can absolutely lay an egg against the Detroit Red Wings. There's a reason why they're 6-1 since Christmas against teams that have 59 or more points, and 2 of 5 against pretty much the cellar dwellers in the NHL. And by the way, that one loss is against the Penguins on New Year's Eve, where they actually played quite well. So they're a mind-boggling team at times, and I think that he's trying to make some moves. And by the way, after the All-Star break and the bye coming up, they have 14 games in 26 days.
Oof.
Again, the trade deadline is February 25th. He's going to really be watching to see if he's going to sell pieces off like Eric Stahl, or if he's going to potentially add. But the danger in adding is that he probably wants to make hockey trades, because this is a team that's gotten into a cycle where they trade prospects and picks every time they want to make a trade, and it's gotten them in a position where they don't have a ton of high-end prospects. So it's an interesting thing. This next month is going to really shape the next little while about what this Wild team looks like.
Interesting. I know when I wrote about all this the other day, right before the Nino trade, I looked at the roster, I looked at the salaries. the contracts, and I came to the conclusion the most logical person to trade in terms of getting return would probably be Granlund. Nino was an easier guy to trade because he had played a smaller and smaller role in this team and was making a lot of money. Of the core players, who do you think the next logical move could be?
I think it's Granlund.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the nature of his contract. He's got 1 year left, and he wants a significant raise. And if he was gonna ask for $8-9 million a year, I'm sorry, you got to move him. He's not an $8-9 million player,
Right.
and it's that simple. And I think the Wild are starting to realize that they've given contracts, big contracts, to a lot of players on this team that inhibits proper return. So you're trading Nino at an all-time low because nobody will take his contract. Then you finally find somebody to take his contract, and you're forced to take another bad contract back. And if all of a sudden you give Nino $8-9 million a year, he's probably untradeable. And I think that the fact that Nino and Zucker got paid and then have been big-time disappointments is one thing that's starting to scare Fenton in a giant way. And so I don't think that it would happen in the next month. I don't think now's the time that you trade Granlund. It usually doesn't happen in season, but I do think he's absolute trade bait. And then the other guy that I really still think is Zucker. I think that we all thought that when he got his 5-year deal that cemented him here for, the majority of that. But I think the Wild are starting to be really disappointed with his play. And again, he has a modified no trade that kicks in July 1. Well, this is the, over these next, 5 months, this is the time where you completely control his fate, because you have now 30 teams that you can trade with as opposed to 20 teams that you could trade with. And so that gives them more of an opportunity, and so we'll see.
This is the Russo-Souhan Show on the TalkNorth.com podcast network. We have great co-hosts throughout our lineup: Jeff Diamond, Roy Smalley, Tim Yoder, John Krasinski, who's Michael's teammate at The Athletic, Cheryl Reeve. Check out the network. We appreciate everybody's listened so far. Also want to thank Twill in the Edina Galleria, our longtime sponsor, the place I shop and spend my own money all the time.
Jim usually doesn't like to shop for clothes. I don't like it when he shops for clothes either, because he used to buy stuff I'd want to throw out. That's why I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We spend our money at Twill because we love the clothes and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
So we'll talk about the incoming players on the last couple of trades, but tell me about ending up on this. Well, just tell me about your life lately, because you go to Costa Rica. You told me you spent a night in the hospital. You sat down with Pierre McGuire and you fly back with Brad Hunt. You've had quite a week.
Yeah, I have. I mean, first of all, Costa Rica was awesome. Went to my cousin's wedding down there. Absolutely gorgeous this time of year. 90 degrees, mosquitoes everywhere, but no wind. Holler Monkeys, this resort we stayed at, absolutely off the charts. It's called El Mangrove. It's in the Guanacaste region, Marriott property, by the way, which made it even better. Highly recommended if you go down there. And I think Delta has non-stops down there a couple times a week. So,
wow.
I unfortunately took the days I had to go through Atlanta. And I think that's why I wound up in the hospital, because flying home, woke up at 4 a.m. Central Time, by the way. Woke up at 4 a.m. Costa Rica time and had an 8 a.m. flight, I think, to Atlanta. 4.5-hour flight there, had a couple-hour layover. Then it's almost a 5-hour flight from Atlanta to Vegas. So essentially, by the time I landed at 6:25 Central Time, so 4:25 Pacific, I've been traveling for 13 hours. I get off the plane, and I'm walking up the jetway, and all of a sudden my calf starts to cramp, and I can barely make it to baggage claim. I'm just limping the entire way, like in beyond agony. And I get home. I get to the hotel. I'm like, I'm getting texts galore from all the people in the Wild traveling party. All right, here's what we're doing tonight. Come meet us. And I can barely walk. And so now I'm getting concerned here. I mean, how the heck what did I do to my leg? And I start, so I Google, which is my first mistake. I Google calf cramps after long flights, and the first thing that comes up is deep vein thrombosis, DVT.
Oh, God.
And now I start reading about deep vein thrombosis and how the symptoms I have are pretty much what's going on there, and that if it basically what it is a blood clot after sitting for long hours after plane ride.
Yep, I read all about it.
And it masks itself as a pain in your calf. So now I'm convinced I'm dying. Then I start, then I go to WebMD and I start reading more about DVT, and I read how, like, if these blood clots shoot up to your lung, you can have a pulmonary embolism. If it shoots up to your brain, you can have a stroke. And now I'm like, all right, well, that's not good. So I go on my new health insurance website. I go for the first time in my life. I go to the Nurse 24/7 line. They call me in Vegas. I give them my symptoms, and the guy's like, get yourself to a hospital.
Oh, Lord.
So now, yeah, this is great. So I
got to
Uber
interrupt 1 second, Michael. If a blood clot from your calf shoots up to your brain and causes a stroke, is that listed as an upper body injury or a lower body injury?
It is an upper body injury only. It will quickly probably turn into a no body injury.
I just wanted to clarify. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
It wouldn't end well. So anyway, so I get into an Uber and I go to the Sunrise Medical Center, which is off the Strip behind like the down, behind the Hilton off the.
Oh, tell me about the people you saw there.
Well, I walk in there and, I mean, there's got to be 100 people sitting in the waiting room. And the first thing I see is a little girl that throws up in a bag. Oh. And I'm just like, there is no way that I'm going to get seen here. And so I get back in the Uber. Same Uber driver picks me up, by the way, which was hilarious. And I go to this place called Elite Medical Center. And it's basically 3 minutes from my hotel that I was originally at. I passed it on the way in. It's a 24-hour emergency room that they just built recently in Vegas, right off the Strip. So I'm there. I got Lepantis blowing my phone up, basically saying, hey, we need to make this fantasy trade. The deadline's in 20 minutes. I'm like, I'm dying. Like, I finally made the worst trade that I possibly could make with him just to get him to leave me alone. I get to this place. It's immaculate, by the way. No waiting. I go in there. I see the doctor. He checks me out right away, and he's like, I don't think you have DVT because you're, basically, like, there's a ton of symptoms for it. One I definitely had, but the others I didn't. Like my calf, my leg wasn't red. It wasn't warm to the touch. It wasn't blown up bigger than my other giant calf, by the way. And so he's like, but either way, they give me an IV of basically a mix of painkillers and electrolytes. They do a full blood workup. They prick my finger. They call in an on-call ultrasound lady that comes down there. 4 hours later, he walks in and goes, okay, good news. You don't have DVT. I think you have just a pulled muscle. So I spent my night in Vegas on this gurney of this, like, immaculate hospital, basically, probably spending a fortune because I'm not positive Blue Cross even covers this place. Oh, my God.
Did you get Marriott points
to find out that I have a pulled muscle. And I still can't walk. I mean, like, like, let's put it this way. I went out and met the broadcasters last night, and we went to this Italian restaurant. I was walking across the giant highway here by the arena, and I walk in there. I'm like, yeah, I just limped here. And Greenlight goes to me. He goes, yeah, we saw you walking across the highway. I couldn't roll down the window fast enough to scream at you. Like, I was just like, I look like Igor from Young Frankenstein. The way that
what? I don't know what's. This is a really good Russo hypochondriac injury. I still don't think it's as good as hurting your finger pulling up your sock, Bill.
No, that one hurt. Yeah, that one hurt too. So, you know what? The story gets better. So the next morning, this is even more embarrassing. Okay, I spent all night in the hospital to be told I have a pulled muscle. And then the doctor's like, I'll write your prescription. So he gives me the prescription. He gave me a prescription for ibuprofen. Okay? Like this, like my pain wasn't even good enough to get an opioid. He gives me an ibuprofen prescription for like 800 milligrams. Okay? So the next morning I wake up and I limp to the sink and I'm like, well, I haven't got my prescription yet, but I have over-the-counter ibuprofen. and they're 200 milligrams. So I wake up and I take 4 ibuprofen. Okay, so now I decide that, all right, I'm going to go walk to the CVS, limp to the CVS, and get myself some icy hot and the prescription filled. I'm walking to the place, and I am just getting sick. Like, I'm convinced I have the flu. I feel like I'm going to throw up. It's 50 degrees. I'm sweating through my shirt. I'm like honestly ready to keel over. There are Wild fans everywhere. I'm like literally, I'm not kidding you, literally hiding behind poles because I am such a wreck that I don't even want to see Wild fans. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, I'm limping, I'm sweating, I'm ready to hurl, and there are Wild fans everywhere, like Russo, and I'm like hiding behind poles so I didn't have to face this.
I can't wait until Russo Slacks gets hold of this material.
Yeah. And I'm so embarrassed of what I'm looking like right now, and I'm so concerned that I'm going to like throw up in somebody's shoes that I have absolutely, like, I'm hiding from people. So I get to the CVS, I give them my prescription. They're like 15 minutes. So I go to a Starbucks, I order an Americano. I can't drink it. I'm that sick. Okay. I'm like now really concerned. I'm like, all right, so it went from like, maybe I really do have DVT and this guy was wrong. Okay. And like, what is going on here? I didn't just mysteriously get a flu bug in 12 hours. And I've never felt this way in my life. So now I limp back to CVS. I go to get my prescription, and the woman that gives me my prescription goes, "Hey, the pharmacist wants to talk to you." And I'm like, I don't need to talk to the pharmacist about freaking ibuprofen. I've taken it my entire life. She's like, no, she wants to talk to you. So the woman comes over to me, the pharmacist. She goes, "Hey, the only thing I got to tell you is make sure you take this with on a full stomach, or you will get sick immediately." And I'm like, oh. So I woke up, took essentially the prescription strength ibuprofen on an empty stomach, and that's why I'm sick right now. So now I go back to Starbucks. I order myself like a spinach feta wrap, which I never eat. And I'm not kidding you. It was like medicine. I ate this, and all of a sudden I was like 100%. It was crazy. So
you're hockey tough. That's all I got to say.
I mean, honestly, that was my Vegas trip. It was the worst Vegas trip out of my 75, 80 Vegas trips in my life.
All right. Well, here's my smooth transition, Michael. Before you take ibuprofen in Minneapolis, you should eat Dulono's first. It'll coat your stomach. It'll fill you up. Our next live show is January 28th, 6 o'clock. Come down and see what ailment Michael has that day. And, bring him some chicken soups. It's matzo ball soup. You bring him something that'll make him feel good. Check out Dulono's Pizza at Dulono'sPizza.com. You can order online. You can call them at 612-767-9494. I order it all the time. I also go over there because it's a great place to watch games on the big screens and drink craft cocktails or craft beers. It's just a great place to hang out. We have really enjoyed working with them. Again, Dulono'sPizza.com, 612-767-9494. They have a huge delivery area because they have their shop in Woodbury and their shop in Minneapolis. And they've been awarded, won all kinds of awards, excuse me. They've been doing it for 60 years. And unfortunately, not as many people know about this location as they should. This is a great pregame, postgame, pre-event, post-event location right by Ramp C, walking distance to the sporting venues and the music venues in downtown Minneapolis. Check them out at Dulono'sPizza.com. Tell me about flying back with Brad Hunt.
Yeah, that was cool. So the Wild, first of all, just to backtrack a little bit, they played a Vegas game, and I thought they were awesome. Other than a little drought in the second period and that one mishap by all four skaters on the power play goal by Alex Tuck, I thought they played awesome in Vegas. So, you're writing this story, and I watched that game with Pierre McGuire, which we could talk about in a little sec. And then the Wild, right after I file, it's funny, I file my story, and when I'm writing, I have headphones on, and I file my story, I'm getting up to leave, I look at my phone, and 3 minutes before, I missed the fact that they traded for Brad Hunt. I'm like, okay, who the hell's Brad Hunt? And the funny thing, the first thing that I thought of about Brad Hunt is the one thing I know about Brad Hunt is I have two like really close friends that live in Vegas, and one's just coincidentally, it's both my passions. One's a casino host, and the other is a alcohol distributor. So there you go. Shocker, right? So So anyway, so the first thing I think about is that I know that my casino host at the Planet Hollywood has told me a gazillion times how he's become tight with Brad Hunt. So that was pretty funny. So they right away, I'm just thinking, all right, they're adding a depth defenseman because they send Belpedio down. Well, so I kind of make it a little note in my story and not thinking anything really of it. And then I start getting, I start kind of, as I'm walking back to the hotel, limping back to the hotel, I'm sending text messages. I'm starting to ascertain that this is actually, that the Wild are acquiring him to play and not just to be a depth D. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. But after writing trade stories for as long, I didn't want to do the cliched trade story where you sit in front of a guy and he's like, I'm really excited about a new opportunity, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's boring stuff.
Agreed.
So I started thinking to myself, I bet you that he's on my plane tomorrow. Because the other thing is I knew that the trade didn't happen until the Wild were in the air because they couldn't get the trade call done. It's it's a holiday in New York. You have to get central registry on the phone, and I knew there was a delay there. So I knew that he wasn't on the Wild plane, so I knew he was spending the night. And so I'm like, I bet you he's going to be on my plane in the morning. So, I'll go over and introduce myself to him and maybe interview him in the airport and do a cool story. Because I figured, again, when you acquire somebody, most teams will fly that person first class to the new team. It's kind of like when the Star Tribune brought me in for the interview. They flew me first class. And then when I accepted the job, and then when I accepted the job and had to come up for the drug test, they put me in a middle seat. But I digress. So anyway, that same trip, by the way, they put me up at the Marquette Hotel. I had like the biggest hotel room I've ever had. And then when I came up for the second Marquette, it was like a closet. So. But it wasn't a sign of things to come. So anyway, so I figured that he would be on the United flight and not the Southwest flight, and those were the only two nonstops to Denver, other than probably Frontier and who would fly Frontier. So anyway, I get to my gate, and I'm looking for him immediately, and I find him instantly, and I go up to him, and he's exactly. By the way, in this interim, I've gotten texts from NHL players that have played with him in his 4 other stops, including one that plays for the Golden Knights, and a couple that play for Edmonton and a couple that played for Nashville or have played with him in the past. And I'm also looking at Twitter, and I'm seeing from beat writers that have covered him that this guy is like the greatest human being on earth. So I'm kind of excited to actually go over to introduce himself, and he's exactly what was advertised. He stands up. He's as nice as can be. We're chatting about his life. He's telling me that his wife's pregnant and he's going there and how he's really excited to come to Minnesota, which I'm looking out the window, looking at the mountains. I'm telling him I'd be really upset to leave here. But anyway, then the last thing he does, I kind of tell him, I'm like, this flight delay we have, I hope I can make practice. And he goes, well, there's a car service picking me up. Why don't you just come with me? I'm like, okay. So we get on the plane. And then it was really neat. And again, to me, from a story idea standpoint, I'm like, this is really interesting because I started to think about. I've covered, 100, 200 trades in my life, and I've never seen it from this perspective. You always see it when the guy shows up at practice and you interview him in the locker room. You never see it from the guy flying to his new life and going to the baggage claim and getting his equipment and the nerves that come with that and all that stuff. So it turned out to be a really kind of neat story today that I wrote on The Athletic in just kind of hanging with Brad Hunt on his first day with the Wild. And then we're on our way to practice, and he got a text message from Andrew Height, who you know well from the Twins days, who's the team services guy for the Wild. And he says, hey, don't bother coming to practice. You were late. We got on the ice early. There's no reason of trekking out to DU. Just go to the team hotel. So because of that, I got to spend a little more time with him because we were already halfway to DU, and then we went to the hotel. So it turned out to be a really cool story. And as you mentioned, he's playing. He's in the lineup tonight against the Colorado Avalanche, which is just shocking. He's somebody that's played 13 games this year, didn't practice yesterday, and Bruce Boudreau's throwing him right into the lineup, which is going to be interesting to see. By the time this podcast is out, we'll know, but it'll be interesting to see where he's playing in the lineup, if it's going to move Brodin to the right side or if he's going to play the right side. Either way, one of their left D is going to be miscast in the lineup.
I have a story to tell that's similar to yours. Do want to thank Fixologyrepair.com. They handle cell phone repair, jewelry repair, watch and battery repair and replacement. They buy gold. They repair tablets and iPads. They just worked on my tablet and iPad. They will handle mail-in repairs. Check them out at fixologyrepair.com. Third floor of the Mall of America by Nordstrom's downtown in the Skyway just south of the Wells Fargo Center, right across from Dunn Brothers, fixologyrepair.com.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
So before I was a ink-stained, jaded columnist, I was an ink-stained, jaded beat writer. And like you, I was an obsessive beat writer. I went crazy when I covered the Twins and the Vikings. And so one day they had this AAA player named Bernardo Brito. He was like one of the greatest AAA minor league sluggers of all time, but he could never really hold a big league job. And so one day I'm walking into the Metrodome and he's walking out. He just got I think he just signed in Japan because he realized he was never going to get a real shot with the Twins. He signed overseas someplace. He's walking out. I said, Bernardo, where are you going? He said, I'm out of here. This team didn't want me. I'm going to go play overseas. And I said, give me 5 minutes. He said, I can't. I got to get to the airport. And I said, how about if I drive you? So I ran and got my car. I turned on my recorder. I put him in the passenger seat. I had him hold the recorder. I asked him questions. I interviewed him while I drove him to the airport.
That's funny. It reminds me of this one time. So the Panthers, when I covered them, they used to train in Haut, Quebec, which is right outside Ottawa. And so we'd be there for like 2-3 weeks. That's why I know Ottawa so well. And so one day, I'm riding it alone at the Olympics Stadium where the whole Olympics played. And I'm walking out to my car, and I happen to be walking. I mean, this is like 2-3 hours after practice ended. I'm walking out, and Pavel Bure is kind of, I hear somebody behind me. I turn around, it's Pavel Bure. I'm like, what are you doing still here? He goes, I was getting treatment. And so he, this is pre-Uber. He had to go to a payphone to order a cab. And so I go to him. I'm like, you want me to just give you a ride? I was staying in Ottawa, but they were staying in Haut, Quebec. I'm like, you want me to just give you a ride back to the hotel? He's like, yeah, if you wouldn't mind. And then right away, I got actually nervous. I'm like, this is their $58 million man. They signed him. This is the richest hockey player in hockey. At the time, they gave him, after they traded for him, the biggest contract in NHL history in terms of actual salary. I think it was like 5 years at 58. And I'm like, could you imagine if I got into a car accident with Pavel Bure in my passenger seat? I had never driven safer back to a place. I was like overly cautious on every turn that I made with this guy in my passenger seat.
And what if deep vein thrombosis is contagious? You could have killed him. Yeah.
Russo Slack's tweet, with Michael basically being his first impression of the Wild, has Hunt asked for a trade yet?
He's on his game, but I'm really looking forward to the tweets are funny, but it's the Photoshops that really do it. So I can't wait for his Photoshops after he hears this episode. Tell us more about the players. Aberg and Rask. Are these, are they contributors? Are they just roster depth?
Well, here, I know I usually leave the tweets to you, but Skylar Vicious asks, please tell me why Rask is so lazy with the way he skates. It makes no sense. If he keeps it up, he'll be a healthy scratch in no time. Pretty much dead on analysis. This is my problem with the trade. I mean, I'll give you everybody a little heads up. So I knew that Nino was traded for about an hour and a half before it was announced, and it was a stressful hour and a half. And at least that's why we were able to have our article written and published at the second it was done. But Fenton got word. This kind of ticks me off. Somebody I emailed, a source of mine, to ask. I knew that Nino was gone. I was trying to find out who was gone from Carolina. And the person that I emailed, one of the people I emailed, actually went and told Fenton that I knew, and Fenton lost his mind. And basically what happened was Nino they could not get Nino on the phone because he was doing his afternoon nap. Mm-hmm. And, I'm sure all players just put their phone on silent during this. It was a game day for Nino. He's sleeping, and they didn't want me publishing or tweeting out that he was traded until he found out from the team. And so it was a stressful hour. It was a long time. I mean, because you're just waiting to get scooped by the national guys or whatever. And the only thing I knew is that it was bad contract for bad contract. And so I kind of created 2 shells of tweets, 2 shells of articles for either Justin Falk or Victor Rask. Because I figured looking at their roster, I knew for a fact they weren't trading for Dougie Hamilton. I knew for a fact they weren't trading for Michael Furland. I knew for a fact they weren't trading for Pesci or Slavin. So again, bad contracts that there to me were only 3, and I thought that one of those 3 that I considered a bad contract, I knew they were about to tear up Tuva Teravainen's contract and extend him. So I knew it wasn't him, so it had to be Falk or Rask, and I right away got nauseous when I thought it was Rask. It's kind of like the Hansel trade when it happened, and I'm like, this is not good. And I just think it's going to be the same thing with him. I've watched this guy plenty, and I hate to say it, I've watched him plenty because he was on my fantasy team and drove me crazy. and so 2 years ago, I'm just like, you're done, out of here. I booted him off the freaking Hebrew Scribes, Jim. Gone.
Hebrew Scribes, I love it.
Yeah, and just watching him again right now, he doesn't move his feet. He has very unnatural skating strides, and then the other thing is he's for a big guy, he's not physical. I mean, when he tries to lay a check on somebody, he just really, awkwardly falls off of him. It's hard to watch, and so he's got great skill. He's got great hockey sense. Like you could see it in the offensive zone when he's not taking lazy penalties like he did in Vegas the other day. Like watching him in Vegas the other day and watching the game against, not Anaheim because they lost that game, Columbus. I saw a couple plays there. He's got great, almost quick instincts offensively from the offensive blue line in, but from the offensive blue line back, which, by the way, I'm not a math major, but that's the largest part of the sheet of ice. That's a problem. He is a problem. And so they are going to have to, what you hope, and I talked to Pierre McGuire about this in my story, and I put it in the story, is what you hope is that if they're going to continue to play him with Zach Parise, that he's going to be complemented by Zach's work ethic and feed off that energy. And, even Carolina fans have tweeted me in the last couple of days, like, you really have to put him with 2 fast, energetic wingers, or he's going to really stand out. And so I'm not sure I like this trade. I don't think it's going to be a good one for the Wild. And, I agree the Wild have to get younger up the middle, but I think they have to get faster up the middle. He doesn't make them faster. He seems like a great guy, by the way. But it concerns me that a slow group up the middle, although Eric played really fast the other night and is starting to play fast again, but Koivu, Stahl, who are veterans, and now you add Rask, that's just, you're pretty slow up the middle, and this is a team that if you're going to compete with the upper echelon teams in the West, I think you got to get faster.
Let's hear from Michael about his time with Pierre McGuire. First, let's thank Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent. He works out of Champlin. It's Hoaglund. Google him. He's great to work with. Michael and I both use his services and have enjoyed working with him and his sponsorship of many shows across this network.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number 1 in car insurance since World War II and number 1 in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
So what was it like to watch the game with Pierre?
Pretty much like listening to him on TV. He's kind of the same passionate guy. And I just found it fascinating. I know that everybody is like, you either love him or hate him type thing with Pierre. But he's always been great to me, has treated me with unbelievable respect. And so he came to the game and he was just there kind of as a fan. And I'm like, why don't you sit up in the press box and sit next to me and I can kind of like pick your brain and to be it's kind of, again, like I mentioned the cliched trade stories that you hate to write sometimes. Look, there are 82 games, and this I thought would be a different way to write a game story, and so I was able to sit there with Pierre to my left and kind of pick his brain throughout the game and listen to some of the things that he picked up on, and and kind of weave it into a game story that was pretty, that captured a pretty entertaining game. And again, had Pierre talking about the greenways of the world and where the Wild can go in this season, and him talking about guys like Parisi and things like that. So it was a fun afternoon to kind of sit with him. Somebody that we also, it's a different perspective for him. He's always in between the benches and always kind of gets to see the action at 200-300 miles per hour at ice level. Now all of a sudden he's up top where it's slow, but he's able to see the game evolve. So I think it was fun for him, and it turned out to be a pretty cool story for me.
Let's buzz through a few Twitter questions. Russo's Filter, what's the biggest thing that fans go nuts over that is actually irrelevant? Line combinations, captaincy, UFA, trade rumors, question marks.
Probably line combinations, because they always change.
Right.
Definitely. And again, with the line combinations right now, Bruce is just, he's not the GM. He's been given these players. Rask was put on his team to not play the fourth line. Aberg was put on the team to help the power play. Hunt was put on the team to play. But what this always does is disrupts other things. So now all of a sudden, Greenway is not on the power play anymore. Cunning's not on the power play anymore. But this is, I know everybody was like, I was looking at Twitter and everybody was trashing Boudreau for moving Charlie Coyle to the right wing. He didn't make the trade. They traded for a center. Stahl and Koivu are not moving to center. If Charlie Coyle is going to be a top 6 or 9 forward, he had to move back to right wing. Yes, it stinks because he was playing well there, but Rask was put to be the third line center on this team. So, he's just doing what the GM is looking for.
From NH, how come the Wild couldn't at least also get a draft pick in the Nino trade?
I think it probably had to do with the fact that they were taking on a ton more salary than the Wild were taking.
Right.
And so if they got a draft pick, probably Carolina was saying, well, then you got to retain salary, and the Wild were able to get out of this without retaining salary. Yeah, I agree. I would have tried to get even a 5th rounder, 6th rounder, but hey, I mean, I don't know what the conversations are like. I can tell you, I do think the Wild were trying to trade Nino for months. But this one happened really quickly. Like from my Carolina sources, I hate to say it like this, but they couldn't get off the phone fast enough. So, it was a fast conversation. I do think that probably management. I know that the management here has not been the new management has not been a fan of what they're watching with Nino, and I don't think they're a fan of, by the way, what they're watching with Zucker and Boudreau as well, or Granlund as well. But I think that watching that Philadelphia game and how bad that Stahl, Greenway, and Niederreiter line was in Philadelphia, especially in their offensive zone, I think probably made them lose their mind, and then they were just like, all right, we're getting rid of Nino now. This is just not working. And he hasn't had a good year. It's that simple. He has not been good. And so, I get that part. What stinks is that you got to take a contract like Rask back.
Right. From Mark, the Wild have few, if any, elite players. Is the possibility of a 3-for-1 trade? Does that kind of a possibility exist to acquire a much-needed number 1 center or number 1 scoring wing?
That would be total conjecture. And those trades are so hard to make and usually don't happen at the trade deadline. They're ones that need to be kind of organized in the off season. But I agree. I mean, the Wild need to figure out a way to get that future number 1 center. They need to get more game breakers. They need to figure out long-term solution at goaltending. I think I mentioned a month ago on the podcast that Alex Stalock was close to an extension. He's still very, very close to an extension. That'll get done, a multi-year extension. That'll get done soon. But long-term solution as a number 1 goalie, I mean, Dubnyk has only got a couple years left, and right now, we're assuming that Kaapo Kakkonen can be the guy, but we don't know that. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, even Fenton the other day when I asked him says like, I don't know. I mean, he's playing well for the last couple months, but it's way too early to call him the quote unquote goalie of the future.
Right. From Kyle Muchez, I hope I'm getting your name right, Muchez, on Edmonton. How did Chiarella last so long?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's been a disaster there. He took a situation that should have been an easy one to turn into a juggernaut, and he just effed it up. Taylor Hall for Adam Larson, straight up disaster. traded the MVP of the league last year. The Lucic extension, the trade of Jordan Eberle for Ryan Strome, and then you trade Strome for Spooner, and then you put Spooner on waivers the other day. Firing coaches left and right. And then a day before he's fired, they let him give a guy that's played barely in net a contract extension worth $4.5 million per, which is more money than any other defenseman make. It absolutely makes no sense that they allowed him to execute that contract a day before being fired. So this guy deserved to be fired. He took a situation where he is the best player in the world and one of the other best players in the world in Leon Draisaitl, and he completely screwed it up with a team that sometimes is unwatchable. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there and who becomes the next GM.
Great stuff, Michael. Packed show, and we hope we'll have another packed show on Monday night at Delano's Pizza, 6 o'clock, downtown location, right there on 4th Street by Ramp C. I'm not even going to ask you for a final thought because you already gave us a million thoughts. Great stuff. I appreciate it, and we'll see you on Monday.
Awesome.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
Like we all know, I'm not a winner.
How do you keep your family healthy this season when it feels like everyone around you is getting sick? I use Sambicol. It's drug-free and scientifically tested to help support your immunity. Sambicol has the power of black elderberry in every purple bottle. It comes in tablets, syrup, chewables, or my kids' favorite, the great-tasting gummies. So this cold and flu season, support your family's immunity with Sambicol Black Elderberry. It's the only one I trust for my family. And best of all, my kids love it too.